I'm Brad Mowell, and I'm running for Ward 1 one-year term, and Cindy Trapp is also running for the Ward 1 one-year term spot. Cindy was going to be here tonight, but she had someone who was going to handle her schedule at work cancel at the last minute. So she may try to text some answers to some of the questions that are asked, and if she is able to do that, if she's not busy at work at the time she gets the question, David Hemphill is going to read her answers.
I'm David Larimore. I'm running for Ward 1 two-year term. And I'm sorry Paul's not here, but I understand Paul said that he was given the invitation and decided that he would renege on the invitation. But it's a shame, and I wish he'd be here to give it his voice.
I am Michael Barr, running for Ward 3 Alderman on a two-year term.
I'm Melinda O'Quinn, and I'm running for Ward 3 Alderman for a two-year term.
And I'm Larry Quitman. I'm also running Ward 3 for a two-year term.
I think you'll all be seated, and David will ask the first question.
All right, this question comes from Aaron Wallace. Question is, if you don't agree with the motion on the floor, but every one of your peers does, do you just go with everyone else, or will you be the only person against it and stand for what you believe? Melinda will be the first person to answer that question.
Okay, can you read that question again, please?
Yes.
Could you use the mic, please?
If you don't agree with the motion on the floor, but every one of your peers does, do you just go with everyone else, or will you be the only person against it and stand for what you believe?
Well, that one's going to be pretty easy for me to answer. No, I won't agree with just what everyone else has to say. I'm going to listen to what the residents of Willard have to say about what their beliefs and what their wants are. That's what the purpose of being an alderman is for my ward, is to pay attention to what the residents are wanting done. We have a purpose, and that purpose is to be the voice for our citizens, not just be there for ourselves and to just go along with what everyone else has to say. I have an opinion as well. I will voice mine. I'm not going to sit back and agree. Sometimes we won't agree on anything, and we'll be sitting there for hours probably disagreeing with it. If I feel that it is something I should go with, then yes. I'm not going to be just a hard head and make it difficult for everyone either. But no, I will not go along with something that I don't agree with. That's not what we're here for.
David Larimore. Same question.
Well, I'm running for the citizens of Willard, and my opinion will be voiced, but I want the citizens to give me input. And the dollars and cents are the taxpayers' dollars. We've had too much in the past of mayoralship and aldermen who, looking at their own benefits and also the support from the citizens, were against some of the directives. And I think as a alderman, as by state statutes, we have to listen to the voice of the people and do what they ask. But I will be very vocal into what I think the citizens dollars should be spent.
Brad would be the next person to answer that question.
Could you repeat it one more time?
If you don't agree with the motion on the floor, but every one of your peers does, do you go with everyone else, or will you be the only person against it and stand up for what you believe?
Despite how I may appear sometimes when I write things on Facebook, I actually like to listen to everybody's opinion, and I never let anybody make up my mind for me. I try to make the best decision I can based on the information that I can find out at the time, and I base my decisions primarily on two things. One is the Missouri Constitution, and the other one is the U.S. Constitution. So as far as trying to, not answer or just to be unfriendly. I wouldn't do anything like that. I will listen to everybody, and I would speak my own mind.
I don't know if anyone's heard that Meredith Reeves was not feeling well, so she couldn't make it. Larry Whitman, it's your turn.
Well, I also feel that this is a position that is a representative position. It's not about personal opinions as such, but it is about representing the citizens of Willard. And if the group that I represent, if I feel that the majority of those folks would be in disagreement with the rest of the board, that's how my vote would go also.
Michael Barr.
Just to echo what everybody else has said here, I believe that we are elected representatives of the citizens of each ward. I would hope that the citizens would make their voices heard, whether through direct email contact, phone contact, or Facebook as a new media outlet. But absolutely, I would stand up for what I believe. If I believe that a motion on the floor is not serving the citizens of Willard, if I believe that it is unconstitutional, I would absolutely vote against that motion.
All right, Cindy just answered in her, she's echoing everything that you guys are saying. She was standing up for that, not for herself on that. Anyone want to, you guys all had the same answer, so you really can't argue on that.
Guess it's my turn, and as moderators on the first questions, we're asked to pick it out of the book. But the mayor has his question back there. Would you like us to read it, or would you like to read it?
I'll read my own.
It's your turn
You
then.
ready?
Yep.
This is actually to just one person. And what it is, and this is to Brad, I've had 4 people to ask me, and I wasn't even aware of this, why you didn't stand and say the pledge of allegiance to the flag with your hand over your heart in the council meetings. I said, I didn't even realize he didn't because I'm looking at the flag. So I'd like you to address that. So part of those people are here tonight.
Sure. I actually don't do that based on the fact that, I grew up here and I love the United States. And we have so many good things, and we have had for a long time. And I'm afraid that there are, in a lot of respects, some things that we're going to lose if we don't be very careful. One of the reasons I don't say the pledge is because we are supposed to be a constitutional republic. But as our government at the federal level, with the way it's acting, they no longer act like a constitutional republic. It doesn't matter who runs it. It doesn't matter if one party or the other does so. They basically have abandoned the notion that that's the way we were designed and what we were designed to be. And that's one thing. The other thing is the idea that it says that we're indivisible. And we weren't designed as a nation to be indivisible. We were a collection of states. That idea being based on the fact that if one state or a collection of the states has an issue with something the federal government wants to do, then those states have a right to stand up and try to stop it. That was basically the idea that was held by the founders at the time the Constitution was signed, to try to prevent federal overreach. So it isn't that I don't like the flag, I love the flag. I haven't really thought about this, this is something I've just kind of concluded in the last 3 years. And the reason I do it is for the reason what you just did, to make people ask questions, because I think we need to ask questions, and if we don't, we're going to end up losing all of the good things that we have. So that would be why.
Is there any responses up there, or should I just ask number 2 questions since it was only pointed at one person? Okay. Sound fair, Brad?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Thanks.
This will be question number 2 then. This is from Terry Cathcart, is that pronounced right? Well, you can say. Cathcart, okay. I missed the C. His question is, and I love this question because I have it all the time too. What is your vision for Willard growth over the next 5 years or 10 years? Cindy's first on the list, but we'll give her time to answer that question. I'll make her second. Everybody hear the question? The question is growth over the next 5 and 10 years. I already repeated it. Says, what is your vision for Willard growth over the next 5 years, 10 years? Since he's texting Cindy, I'll go to Melinda O'Quinn.
That is a good question. My focus would be, of course, to go to the community to see what the main focus is for you as a community, what you want to see. My thoughts were I would like to see more growth of business. We have some, but I see a lot of closed signs as well. And it's not necessarily, I don't want to see big industrial growth. I want to see small business growth here that is going to stay. I don't see a lot of that. I am an advocate for a 4-lane highway. I know everyone is saying that we're never going to see that. We can't afford that. I disagree. I think if we stand up for it and we stay strong with that, it can happen. We need that for Willard. That's what's going to help our growth. I see us continuing to grow as a community, bringing in, keeping our schools growing, enlarging our community, having more people wanting to live here. We can bring more business if we keep growing, but we have to keep building ourselves up. I see us becoming just stronger as a community for outreach. I think that we need to keep our infrastructure strong. I see the government getting stronger on kind of fixing our expenses. I see a lot of things that we're spending money on that I don't think we necessarily should be. So I want to see that decreasing. I think we can do that and kind of spend that money on more useful projects. But basically I do want to see more growth as far as business that's going to be useful for our communities, and I see us being able to do that. So that's basically my focus, is that we should really look at getting small business growth. And we can. Thank you.
Michael Barr.
Thank you, Terry, for that question. My vision for Willard over the next 5 to 10 years is to initially gather the knowledge and experience of Mitch, our new city administrator, and I believe he gave a great meeting the other day and talked about the balance necessary for a city to grow efficiently. That it takes a balance of industrial and small business and residential properties in order for the city to have the necessary base and structure for the people to grow and to have employment, and to have the tax base necessary for the city to provide the infrastructure for continued growth. I want to see an efficient government. I want to see a government that has cut away every bit of excess, that we structure, I'm going to steal Bradley's term here, but structure to a pay-as-you-go system where we are not burdening future generations with our tax dollars and expenses and debt, that we move to a place of solvency with significant reserves. And in that process, I believe that in any healthy ecosystem, having that balance is important for every aspect to grow, whether we're looking at the sales of goods or services or products, and having a place for people in the community to do things in parks and recreation, having good schools. It takes that balance across the board.
David Larimore.
Well, I have to echo what they have said, but the one way that we're gonna get growth for businesses in the city of Willard for tax base is we gotta get rooftops. And if we don't get the rooftops in Willard and have attractions, in other words, businesses downtown, to try to get those people to stay in Willard, then our tax dollars, or our dollars from our citizens are not gonna be spent here. So the small businesses that are here are not gonna get supported. I've only been back 4 years, and I have seen numerous businesses fail in Willard, and it's not because of the business, they have no support. And it may be that they serve bad food, I don't know. I don't eat out a lot, because I like my wife's cooking. But we need to support the citizens of Willard with businesses. And we can't do that unless we get the rooftops to support them. And I want to see the areas of Willard where we don't have growth in residential areas to grow to help us. I do think as Meredith said, the 160 4-lane is a good thing, but I don't know how we're going to pay for it. I haven't seen the numbers yet. I hear what people say, and I think it is going to be a fantastic thing in future for Willard. But it stops at Jackson Street. Willard is past Jackson Street. It goes to Farmer Road. It goes all the way out to the junction. What is that stopping there going to do for the city of Willard if we don't get to the 4-lane further out? And I have an issue with that. I think we can do some more good for the city of Willard at the present time by looking at the other alternative that was turned down by the Board of Aldermen several years ago, is where we do some left turn laning to try to make the highway safer. And then as we grow, then we take those dollars and put into the growth of the highway. But I think we've got to get some rooftops to support the businesses to be able to grow further with Willard.
Larry, what?
Well, I'm in agreement with the rest of the group. We obviously have to have a business base in order to support the community, in order to raise tax dollars to fund this. That's where those dollars are going to come from. In order to do that, I believe that we need to find a way and work toward obviously getting the citizens of Willard to support those local businesses, and maybe not worry so much about rapid expansion, but to be sure that we can support the infrastructure, the existing infrastructure that we have. There is a lot of maintenance that goes along with that, and I think planned sustained growth over time is really what we want to see.
Okay. Brandon?
Could you read the question one more time? Maybe 2 times. No, I'm just kidding.
Better be able to learn it first.
Well, should.
What is your vision for Willard growth over the next 5 years, 10 years? Basically, what's your vision?
Well, this is only a 1-year term, and I basically have 2, I was pretty quick, Robert, actually. I guess I'm done. I don't really see that you can accomplish a whole lot in a year. And, one thing about business in Willard in particular, I had a business in Willard for a long time, and we do see a lot of businesses, go out of business and close, and there's a reason for that, and you really can't blame the residents. Whenever you have a business in a small town, when you're in a bedroom community, you really have to offer people something that they cannot get elsewhere. You have to go so far above whatever level of service that they could get somewhere else that they're willing to stay where you're at. That's why people will stay going to a particular place. Zotz would be a good example. Zotz seems like they're always pretty busy, and they offer something that, people could go to Springfield, but they could really get something, in my opinion, that's better right here. Another issue with keeping businesses in Willard is just the idea that familiarity leads people to stay, and people are familiar with chains like Sonic and McDonald's, and they will go there. That's why those businesses continue to get business where, you know, other mom and pop operations go out. As far as a 3-year plan, or in the next 5 years, most of the cities that I've talked to seem to focus around a 3- and 5-year plan and then a 15- to 20-year plan. And like Michael had mentioned earlier, those same cities, the ones that I've spoken with, operate on the basis of what's called pay-as-you-go, which is trying to fund projects, capital projects in particular, through accumulated revenue rather than long-term debt. There's a lot of advantages to that in terms of being able to build up your infrastructure and not having interest walk out of the community. Just in the case of the pool alone, the people that decided to put in the pool, it was a well-intended decision, but that one project, there's almost $4.5 million in interest, of tax money just walking out that we'll never see again. And we can't work on our infrastructure because of that, because of the associated interest with it. That's why we have to rely on the federal government to build our sidewalks for us or get money for sidewalks.
Does anyone have any responses to anyone else's answers? What type of background, financial or otherwise, will you bring to the Board of Aldermen if you're elected? Bradley, the first person.
I like to dig into things. There is a friend of mine sitting in the office or the audience who can attest to my liking to dig into things. I used to operate from a position where I was very partisan when it came to any decisions that I would make, and in the intervening years, from about 5 years ago onward, I've kind of learned to try to listen to everybody and to remain calm and try to evaluate everything that everybody has to say instead of just holding things against people. So I think that I would probably, more than anything else, bring a questioning attitude, but a polite questioning attitude to the board.
Larry?
I tend to take a very conservative approach to things, to life in general, finances in particular. I do have past experience managing businesses and have been pretty successful with that over years. As a part of that experience, I've learned the importance of working with people. Occasionally there are tough decisions that have to be made. They may not be the most popular, but you have to do what's right, what's prudent for the business or the entity that you're working with. And I think that's one thing that I would bring to the table.
Michael Barr.
Experience-wise, my professional career outside of growing up on the farm started in the military. Spent 4 years with the Missouri National Guard, and through that process I learned a lot about leadership. I learned a lot about taking directions and when to question those decisions and how to go about that to affect change that affected each and every one of us in that group. From there I took a management position in local automotive dealerships, managed multiple departments, very familiar with financial statements. I'm still a little confused, to be perfectly honest, on the City of Willard's financial statements. I don't believe they provide the detail necessary for me to make good informed decisions on what the city's spending their money on. I think there's a lot of room for improvement there. while in the automotive industry, I wanted a career that gave me a little more meaning, and so I went back to school to become a registered nurse. I spent several years working in the ICU and performing dialysis, and then took a job at Lakeland doing management there. I kind of get the best of both worlds because I enjoy making sure that we're making sound financial decisions, and making those sound financial decisions allows us to provide the best care for our patients, because if we are not financially solvent, we can't take care of our patients. Currently, we use a lot of critical thinking in our nursing practice. We take lots of information, we bring it together, and we make decisions, we make a plan, and we carry that plan out. Once we've carried that plan out, we reevaluate, because many times that may not be the best decision, and it's important to reevaluate along the way and adjust fire if need be. That's the experience that I would like to bring to the city of Willard, to take a critical analysis of each situation, to implement a plan based on that information, and then reevaluate and make sure that our
Melinda, I will repeat your question. What background, financial or otherwise, do you bring to the board of Alderman?
Well, I'm a banker, don't hold that against me. I've been doing it for 23 years, and my responsibility, I am a branch manager, assistant vice president, and a lender. So I have a lot of financial background. I am responsible for helping people plan for their futures. Not only do I help them plan for saving and for getting their homes and being able to plan to have the money for those future homes and know what they can spend and can't spend. I am responsible for running a branch and being aware of, it's okay, turn off those phones. But it's very important to know how to balance the money. And by looking at some of the expenses in Willard, yes, there are some things that looks like needs to be adjusted. I mean, just looking from the outside in, we don't know what's going on. We can't just assume that we know better than you guys do from doing it for years, that we know better. That's what we're going to learn when we become part of the board. But hopefully we can help with that. I have a lot of experience in numbers, and I'm hoping that I can bring that there, bring it in and help fix some things, and have a lot of experience in doing that.
David Livermore. I have a varied background, and my pamphlet back there has a background of all of my prior duties. I was in medical practice. I have been in private businesses, sold them successfully. Was a hospital administrator for 28 years, and all I did was take over hospitals that were in financial trouble. Spreadsheets, balance sheets are a thing that I enjoy looking at. One of the things that Meredith brought up is looking at spreadsheets. I've gone back through and looked at all the back audits for Willard since 2009 and forward. And there's a lot of problems I see that have not been addressed. There's issues as the last audit of last year, where we're on a accrual type of accounting system, and we need to get off of it. We need to be able to have the accounting system a little bit clearer for the public, and the alderman can read the accounting. If you look at the budget sheets that the city has been given, or the aldermen are getting each meeting, they are concise, they're to the point, but they don't tell the alderman how to run the city. And I know from a fact that the mayor can't read them, and nor can the alderman, because they're confusing. And as the city manager or the administrator, that is one of the things I think he has looked at from prior cities, is that we need to adjust where we give better information. I think my background in business and in healthcare financing will be an asset to the city of Willard. I do think there's an awful lot of problems that the aldermen confront that are not financial problems, but it all gears back down to taxes and revenue coming into the city. Can we do a sidewalk project? Do we have to go out, as Bradley says, the federal money?
We don't know that unless we have a good financial base. So I think my background in business will be an asset for the city of Willard.
I've got an answer from Cindy, and it's obviously summarized since it's texted, but she's got 3 years as an alderman. She's got history with city business and 20 years of business management. I wish she was here to go into more detail because I know she's got it, but that was the answer that she would give for that. Now, are there any responses to anything that anyone's said? Brad?
I would just like to point out that and Larry and Linda and, David and Michael all have some extremely good points, and particularly about the budget. And, those are some things that, from going down to the city council meetings for a year or practically a year, you asked earlier about what kind of plan or what your 3 to 5 year plan is. Well, as far as I know, there may already be a 3 or 5 year plan that the city has to do things, but I as a resident don't know that. I mean, maybe it exists, but that's part of the problem, is just the idea of getting information into people's hands so that they can actually kind of understand what's going on with their city. And that's something that's very important to me, and I think that it's probably important to all of them as well.
Before we go to the next question that Brian's going to ask, Cindy gave an answer on the 5 to 10 year plan. It was to work to rebuild infrastructure, sewer, roads, solar, and look for a positive attitude to the city and promote that. In case there was a response to that, we can do that now.
Michael, on the last one, your 2 minutes ran up. Were you done? Any other things to respond to? Okay. This question comes from John Jones. What do you think is the biggest challenge facing the city, and how do you think city government should deal with it? What do you think is the biggest challenge facing the city, and how do you think city government should deal with it?
From the citizens I've talked to so far, it seems like the biggest challenge facing our city is, the number one complaint I hear from people is, why are our sewer rates so high? I hear it over and over and over again. I've had lots of people ask that question to me. I know there's been some questions about how our water rates, meter readings are going on, the efficiency of that process, the long-term plan for our waste management, the billing process of rounding up on the sewer fees along with the water fees. And that was brought up in the last board meeting, but I think it requires a little more investigation. Across the board, local communities, our rates appear to be higher than almost every other community. And I would like to see the city investigate further into that to see if there's ways that we could mitigate some of those expenses to lower those rates. Again, we keep coming back to this point of financial and revenue issues, and how is the city government spending their money that best serves its citizens. Ultimately, until I fully understand where all the money is going, I can't tell you how I'm going to fix that problem or what my plan is to fix that problem. But that is an area that I'm very concerned about for citizens.
After reviewing a copy of the audit from 2009, 2010, whenever that was, it was really kind of apparent that the city is carrying quite a dead load at this point, and developing and maintaining a revenue stream to service that, in addition to all the other routine maintenance type things that have to be taken care of is probably one of the biggest challenges I think that we face. That will take a little more in-depth study to really come up with a solution or plan to deal with that, but I think that's a serious issue that we're faced with at this point.
David?
That's a tough question, but if you look at the past, as Michael said, the biggest thing that I hear from the citizens, and I've walked door to door in the north part of the Ward 1, and my neighbors in the middle or southern part of, or eastern part of Ward 1, biggest problem is sewer and water. Well, in the last few times I have been to the city council meetings, or Board of Alderman meetings, it was brought up by a couple of aldermen, what is our dollars or amount of water pumped? What is our billing rate, or what is billed? What is our loss rates? And why are we not collecting that money from the people who are not paying the bills? In the past audits, as Larry talked about, one of the major things that they talked about was the billing, and that the city of Willard is passing through the charges from the city of Springfield for the sewage. And we have not adjusted those rates. We have not looked at those rates since 2009. But the rates from the city of Springfield have been a pass-through. The rates are being rounded up, as Michael said, and it was brought up last meeting by one of the, and I think it was David, who brought up the reason why the rates are being rounded up. There's never been an answer. There was not an answer to the aldermen who asked how many dollars or how many gallons of water pumped, how many gallons were billed for, and the differences. Those questions have not come back. And in the last 6 aldermen's meetings, none of those questions have been asked. They have been raised each time. In the budgets, there is not a breakdown of the money or the people who are not paying their water bills or sewer bills, and a lot of it is from the rental properties. We've got to look at why, when those people move out of those rental properties, the city is stuck with those bills. We need to look at a way to charge the renter or the rentor for those dollars that we lose. And I'm out of time.
Brad?
The question was about biggest concern. Is that correct? What was the question? It was about the biggest concern?
I will read it all.
Okay, that's great.
What do you think is the biggest challenge facing the city, and how do you think city government should deal with it?
Well, right now, the biggest challenge I see is that the people of Ward 3 are not arguing with each other and keeping us all entertained, but that's just one thing. I was kind of hoping for a little more activity down there, but they all agree on everything. Probably several things. I would like to see Willard, I'm a big localization guy. I would like to see Willard to be as independent as possible, whether that independence was the result of not finding itself in large amounts of debt, or also independent in terms of not having to rely on the state or the federal government for anything. I think that's possible, but that it would take a lot of work. The reason I say that, or even bring it up, is just with the understanding and the idea of just it being something for people to think about. I don't think anybody in a year's time could actually make that happen, but I think somebody in a year's time could raise the possibility, and maybe people who came along later on could make it happen. One of the cities that I spoke with was Layton, Utah, which is a city of 75,000 people. In regard to debt, and they're a city that has, their mayor recently died, they were all very broken up about it. He was a big proponent of pay-as-you-go philosophy. And they are a city that has a $55 million annual budget, and they have one general revenue bond that they got several years ago just for the express purpose of saving themselves money. Otherwise, they would not have got it, because that entire philosophy permeates the entire city government. We as a city are a city that has a $5.5 million budget. And if you look at our actual debt obligations that we have over the next 18 years, if you figure in the interest, we have about $11 million in debt obligations, with including the interest. In my mind, with that amount of money walking out of the community, that's too much, when we could probably, it would take a little bit of effort, but could, switch philosophies and work on something different, or toward a better way of doing things.
Well, it's going to be kind of a repeat again. Same kind of situation. I've been hearing the same things. Our sewage and water expenses, and the fact that we are in a lot of debt. There's a lot of debt with the city right now. Biggest challenges is trying to get that down and trying to figure out a better way, a more efficient and inexpensive way to get the sewage bills to where they're not quite so high and get better ratings. So it's going to be better systems, and I know that the city has been working on trying to find new ways to do that already. I've been at the meetings and they've been speaking about ways to get it kind of down where we have one reader, and getting different systems to make that more accurate so we can get those a little bit better. So same kind of scenario on that. It's going to be the same things.
All right, Cindy's answer to that, the biggest challenge is clear directives, which means strong leadership that knows how to work the system and build teams to accomplish goals.
I agree with what Brad said, but if everybody in the audience who's lived here long enough, and I remember when I didn't live here, but we had property here, we talked about localization. The big issue that the people who live in Willard and the citizens is sewer. The water bills are not bad at all. I love the water bills. They ought to live in Atlanta where we came from. They're 10 times higher. But the sewer, we all talked about localization. They tried in the mayorship of Joe Cosby. He tried everything he could do to build the sewer system for Willard. Came up with the money in the federal finance. Nobody wanted it in my backyard. So there's a lot of things we can do, but we've got to look at what is the best avenue for the dollars that we spend and how we do it. I think the city of Springfield is raping us because of their charges and their losses with the EPA. They're being charged $25,000 a day for sewage discharge. And we've got to do something to look at our sewage bills. The water bills are not bad at all.
They're not really to you, because you just heard me if I did. But anyway, it's not really a question, as far as the sewer and water rates are concerned, yeah, I'm concerned about them too. And I mean, that's one of the reasons I originally started going down to the Board of Alderman meetings to begin with. But there may be some very good reasons as to why sewer and water rates are high. But if you're a citizen, you don't have that information. You don't know. And when you don't know, you have questions. And when you have questions, you're a lot more likely to complain than when you have the information in your hand and a means of trying to explain to yourself at least, what's going on. So as far as sewer and water rates are concerned, David raised some really good points there, but I don't know. But I think people would be a lot less inclined to question it if they did know.
Anybody else?
I think ultimately, kind of to bring it back to a more positive spin, I think the biggest problem Willard has is that we have a great community, and a lot of people don't know that. I think that we do have problems in the city government, but ultimately, kind of back to David's point earlier, letting people know that we have a great community. JC has done a great job with Parks and Rec, building that program, getting people involved. Our trails, there's lots of opportunities here for people to love the city of Willard. And I think ultimately one of our biggest problems is that we don't have enough people here loving our city. And that if we could get some more people in, get more people involved, a lot of these projects could ultimately take care of themselves through the revenue that's generated from rooftops. So ultimately, I think our biggest challenge may be getting people out there to realize what a great community we have and be part of it.
Any other responses? All right. I've got a question from Sam Bear. Question is, if you could only deal with one issue as an alderman, what would it be? Larry, your first on that.
Well, that's a good question, because there's plenty of options out there of things that we do need to deal with. Again, I think maintaining that revenue stream, keeping the dollars local, keeping our infrastructure in as good a shape as we can, given the dollars we have to work with, is critical to attracting new business and new residents to Willard. You know, nobody's going to move to a place that isn't desirable to live in, and we really have a lot going for us with regard to the school system, proximity to Springfield, things of that nature. But I guess the one issue that we still have to deal with is going to be the debt that we have to service, and that's a huge concern.
Thanks, Larry. David, if you could only deal with one issue, what would it be as an alderman?
Well, I want to see Sam and his real estate business be a multi-millionaire from building or selling new property.
You're hired.
Well, my broker number is 937L, so. The biggest problem with selling property in Willard is not the selling of property, it is the debt load that Willard's carrying right now. I want to meet the group who sold Willard the tax burden that we did for the fire district. Those people did some really fine sales. I want to see that same people come back and help the police department and help our, get that type of tax break. I don't know how they did it, but every single person in Willard signed over that dollar at the end of their year to the county. Those are the things I think we need to do, is look at where our debt is, how do we grow from our, out of our debt, and as Brad has said many times, it is the debt load of, I think he said $10 million. Well, if you look at a $2 million pool and it's costing us $12 million to pay it off, I have an issue with it. So I think we need to look at our debt service and then in the future figure out what we're going to do to build prosperity back into Willard.
Michael, Laura?
One issue, I would like to see every Board of Aldermen and the mayor be able to explain any question asked about the fiscal state of the city. If I could deal with one issue, I would push there that each one of us understand our financial statements to the point that if any citizen asked us, we could readily have that information available. Ultimately, I'm looking for communication, transparency, and that fiscal environment. So for each one of us, that's the challenge, I guess, is to push so that we all understand where our money is going as a city so that we can answer that question to each one of the citizens that ask.
Belinda? You could only deal with one
I guess it's back to just the bringing in the business to grow. I still am very adamant about thinking that we really need to focus on growth for Willard, to get our infrastructure strong. I want to see us grow because we really need to get the businesses in here so that we can get our revenue. We've got to get rid of this debt, and that's the way we're going to get rid of that debt, is to get us some growth in here. Get people moving to Willard, get some money in here to build us up. We have to do this. We got to get rid of that debt, and that's how we're going to do it. I just feel very strongly about that. We can do that. We can get businesses to look at us and say, hey, this is a place we want to go. We see people moving here all the time. Our kids, the schools are outgrowing ourselves. Every time we turn around, we're having to build onto our schools. We have wonderful schools. We have the children are constantly coming here all the time. We have more and more people wanting to move to Willard because we have great schools here. So there's a reason people are coming to us. So businesses are going to come next, but we have to support them. Get them coming here, we can do this, we can get it to grow, but we have to support them as residents. Again, small business, I'm not talking industrial. It's got to be the small businesses that come in here. So I'm back to the same thing I said at the very beginning. I believe the businesses is where we're going to be able to work on.
Bradley?
Well, probably the one thing I would change would be just trying to give people more information. Again, it's just a one-year term, and I agree with Michael. It's a great city. I went to school out here. I have lived here for the last 10 years with my wife, and it kind of goes back to the mayor's question about the flag. I love the United States, but there are things that are always going on beneath the surface. And if we don't pay attention to those things, whether it be at the federal level, the state level, or the local level, sometimes those things can take over very quickly. And, we can very easily get used to them and forget to question them. And I think that it's very important that we do ask questions so that that doesn't happen, because if we don't ask questions, I think there is a good possibility that we can end up losing what we have as a city by not questioning the debt we have, for example. And I just basically, the whole reason I wanted to run was to just take a year and try to look at all the issues that I could, whether it be the sewer or whatever it was, from the perspective of an alderman, and get as much information about as I could, and then go out and share it with anybody that actually wanted to know, whether that be via Facebook or via email or by kids volunteering once a month to go out and carry a flyer around people's houses to show them what's going on. I'd like to also speak to something that David had said about the pool. The pool, there's a lot of figures floating around about how much debt Willard has, and the pool itself was a 2.5, as far as I can tell from looking at the figures that I've looked at and the debt schedules, it was about a $2.5 million project, and ultimately by the time it pays off, we'll have paid off about $6.75 million, which roughly equates out to about $4.5 million in interest. The $11 million figure that I referenced earlier was in regard to the total amount of principal and interest that the city is scheduled to pay out per their debt service schedules from between now and 2032. And anyway, I just kind of wanted to speak to that.
Cindy's issue, the sewer and water issues that we still have. Yes, please.
This is not against Meredith, but Meredith brought up a good point about the schools. We have got some of the best schools in the city, or in the area, period. But the budget of the school system is, as of February 15th of this year, they posted their budget. They are $331,987,000, and that's their annual budget. They have $43 million out of that budget in surplus. Now, they have to have surplus money,
But in a day, there are more children who come to Willard schools inside the city limits of Willard than we have residents. The tax base for the Willard School District is not the city of Willard. And I want to see the city of Willard grow because it is an asset to our growth. But we got to figure out a way to get the people to move into the city limits. Anybody else?
I like this question from Rose Kaufman.
I think it's pretty much been answered.
Oh, really? They said, they didn't say, I'll read it. What do you think is the best solution for the city of utilities as far as keeping the cost down? You said we need to keep the cost down, but what is your solution to do that? So is that an answer to you? And the first one is, Mike.
Thank you for that question, Brett. I'll be real transparent. I don't have the best solution right now because I don't have enough information to make a decision. So there's lots of, the devil's in the details, so to speak, and there's lots of details that I just don't have the information at hand. Ultimately, we're going to be looking at ways to mitigate our costs. We're going to look at ways to be more efficient in the processes that we're doing. There are lots of companies out there over the last 8 to 10 years who have come up with significant solvency strategies to make their businesses work in a rough environment. I think that the city can learn from that. We can take that opportunity and apply those same business principles back to our city utilities departments. This kind of takes us all back. We'll keep coming back to the same thing that I don't believe at the current time there's enough information in the budgets that are given and the financial statements that are given to be able to tease out where we can make cuts. So ultimately we've got to start there. Once we figure out where exactly all the money's going, where we're not collecting where we should be, we can start making decisions on how to make it more efficient.
Yes. Well, kind of along the same lines, I have no way to tell you a definite way to fix it either because, I don't know either, to be honest. Just by going to the meetings, like I said earlier, they are looking at ways to get better ways to read the meters and different things like that. They are working on solutions right now as far as what I've got out of the meetings. So I don't have a solution to give you on that either. So as we go along, if you vote for me and I get on the board, maybe I can find a solution. But as of right now, I don't have anything for you on it either. So hopefully we can come up with something for you at a later time.
Larry?
Well, I'll echo those thoughts. It's difficult to sit up here and tell you what the best solution is, but there is a definite need to do a detailed cost benefit analysis. Sometimes the benefits of paying a little more to the city of Springfield to process our waste may outweigh the cost of actually owning and maintaining and trying to keep up with a sewage treatment plant ourselves. Coupled with the fact that, in the event that we did decide as a city to build our own waste treatment plant, you still have that problem that David alluded to earlier, and that is you've got to find a place to put it. And that's going to be a tough sell for anywhere in the Willard area. So, that being said, I think that's what we have to do is weigh the benefits and the detriments of continuing the way we are, look at going forward, you know, what kind of increased costs we probably are going to see from the city of Springfield, and then make a determination from there what the best course of action to take is.
Sorry. I would pretty much agree with what everybody's already said, but I would offer one novel solution that my family employs, and that includes we no longer wash clothes, shower, or do dishes, and that seems to have kept our costs down. Although that probably shouldn't be necessary. It might not help keep costs down, but one novel solution that I kind of thought of that Michael briefly referenced, which I thought might have been a way to try to save a little bit of money, not necessarily with the actual cost of the sewer and the water, but to put a little bit of money back in the budget rather than spend it, was to, instead of reading, you know, it seems like the city has had an awful big issue with the meters, you know, getting the meters installed and trying to get those taken care of and up and running. One thing that I had thought of this summer, and maybe this isn't even possible, but some municipalities actually, rather than bill for their water and sewer monthly, they'll bill every other month or bill quarterly. And they basically end up in a situation where on the last bill, they base the rates off what had occurred the prior year. In doing so, you'd only have to read them, you know, every so often instead of having to read them every month. And it seemed like the reason that we were wanting the new readers was basically just due to the amount of time it takes the Public Works Department to have to go through all of that. That might not work, but I'm kind of one of those people that I just like to look toward novel solutions, and that was something that kind of just struck me earlier.
Well, I agree with everybody except Bradley's not taking a bath and not washing dishes and all. I don't think my wife would allow me to live there. I think the answer to that question is I haven't got the foggiest idea. I look at the prior budget, I look at the audits, I look at or listen to the aldermen's meetings, and those questions they can't answer because we're not getting enough information from the different departments that can answer that question. I have heard the alderman and the mayor talk to and ask the question, why, you know, is the sewer bill higher? Nobody can answer that. Cindy's probably going to come back with a comment because she has asked for 6 months that I've been going, and not one person has given her the justification of why the sewer rate adjustment has not been addressed, as it is supposed to be from the 2009 audit. It has only been addressed twice since 2009 on the sewer rates. I don't have the answer to your question, and I really wish I did, but I don't. As Michael said, as we get in there, we can dig deeper into the numbers that the city is not publishing, then maybe we can have an answer for that.
Any responses to these questions so far? All right. Cindy's response to that was to look for alternative sources and to complete the current projects for the water and sewer. Got a question here. What makes you the best candidate for your award? I will start with Melinda Quinn.
Well, Could just go into my closing speech, it's kind of on there too. I don't know, I just think that I would be good for the fact that I keep a positive attitude, try to keep an open mind and listen to what people have to tell me. I put my personal thoughts and agenda to the side. I always make sure that what I'm told, I take it to heart and I listen. When I become an alderman, my goal is to make sure that what I get told from the community, that's what gets brought up to the board. Doesn't get twisted or changed. I'm going to make sure that I speak from your voices, not mine. That I make sure that the knowledge that I learn from doing everything that I possibly can for the community is going to be trustworthy and honest. I'm going to learn as much as I can about the budget, make sure that the decisions that I make are going to be correct and as accurate as I can. I want to get out in the community to get to know everyone that I can in my ward. I know there's a lot of them. I've seen the map. So it's, hopefully our community, we haven't had a good history of turnout for our ward as far as for voters. So I'm hoping that we can get out there and get some more involvement. I want to really do a good job for everyone. I am committed. I've been on the board for our homeowners association since it started a long time ago. I was asked to do that and I've done it ever since, and it takes a lot of commitment to stay on that. And I've loved doing it. And I've listened to people complain about things in our area and come to me about things, and I've not been able to do anything for them, and it's drove me absolutely nuts. And I want to be able to do something now and help and try to get things done. And I've sat back and I've said, well, go to your city. There's nothing I can do for you. Well, now I want to be the one that they go to, and I can say, you know what? Let me go to the city for you. I want to take that turn for them. I want to be able to say, you know what? Guess what? I'm going to go to the city and talk for you this time and not send them for them. So that's what I want to do for you. Thank you.
David,
That's a tough question, but I can say I'm here. The person who's running against me is not here. If you look at change, I'm probably the only person who can look at the change of what the past boards were. There's only been one candidate, or one person who's running for office, who was on the 2009 budget named as an alderman. He was also one of the aldermen who was on the signed information for the pool. He's not here to discuss this. He did not vote on the final bill for the pool. He was absent that night. But I want to see change. I want to see different things happening in Willard. Willard is my home, and I want to see the growth of Willard. But I guess to say why am I the best candidate for my ward is because I'm here, I have background, and I want to see the city of Willard. My wife's parents or grandparents go back to 1800s. There's historic landmarks. They had the first restaurant in Willard. So I have some history that I'd like to see it grow and prosper. I want to see my grandkids come down here. I got 8 of them.
Bradley Mill.
Well, this may disappoint the approximately 2 people that plan on voting for me in my ward. But I don't know that I am the best candidate. The only reason, I mean, I like Cindy a lot. And I didn't run because I didn't like Cindy. I ran because I wasn't hearing the questions that I wanted answers to being asked. And I thought that's kind of originally why I started that Facebook page. And I thought that if I ran, that maybe some of the questions that I cared about would actually come to the fore and people would start paying attention to them. be perfectly fine with me if Cindy wins. That's probably a horrible thing to say, but you know, just as far as why people voting for you, but it's the truth.
I think any organization or entity can benefit from a changing of the guard or some new blood, a fresh set of ears, fresh set of eyes, or multiple sets. And I think that's what, several of us at this table bring to this little party is an opportunity to get some new ideas, new perspective on things, and to, I think the experience that I have in business, things that I've done in the past would help guide me, and I feel like I do have some ideas and some things that could help move the city along. And that's the reason I decided to run.
I think ultimately, as long as people get out and vote and pick the person they want to represent them, then we all win as citizens of Willard. For me personally, I spent a lot of my life serving others, and through that progression and meeting with people from Willard, this seemed like the next logical step. The more they talked to me about it, the more it made sense. I enjoy seeing other people succeed. It was the reason I was a platoon guide in basic training. It was the reason that I was promoted to management of the dealership, was because I would take everybody's strengths and build on those. I would put them in positions that allowed them to be the best for the company and the people we served. Ultimately, that's what I want to do here. I want to represent the citizens of Ward 3, and I want to serve them in the way that they see fit. So on that note, I'd ask for your vote.
To finish the question and answers and track the candidates today.
I've read this for a second. Cindy's response is experience in the city, knowledge of the city and history, and in election year, when 5 or 6 seats were empty. After Brian asked that question, we get responses. This is really a pressing question that has been asked. If you guys want to ask maybe 2 questions, I'd like to see that happen if you have a question.
Or closing statements. Squeeze the question into the closing statements. You guys don't have to answer it if you want to, so it's closing statement time. But in your closing statements, you guys are all saying business, do you come here? What type of business do you think that we can bring to Willard without a 4-lane highway? What's your dream business that you would like to bring to town? You don't have to answer it as your closing statement. You can answer our closing statement the way you feel. They learn more from you.
Well, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank everybody for coming. I personally want to thank the aldermen who have served tirelessly in their job, because it is a lot of pay. You know, they are millionaires from having to serve on the board as long as they have. I appreciate everything that the citizens are wanting. I'm running for the citizens as the taxpayers. I want to see the growth down in Willard. My platform has never wavered. It is for the citizens of Willard. If elected, I pledge to answer the questions the best I can, and until we get some financial information that is readable and in a sermon, there's no way that I can answer some of the questions. I want to see some of the budgets of the departments who every month there is a negative balance because they didn't know how to budget it in the first place. As the budget is, it's 2 years past, and then you look at the future and take forward. And I have some issues with some of the departments is that we're not knowing what those budgets are. Why are the sewer and water rates? I'd like to see that addressed. Past recommendations from the audits have not been addressed. And I think we need to look at those and find out why we haven't been addressing it. The talk has been the 160 expansion. I think it's a great idea, but I think it needs to go through Willard. I think that we need to look at the options that we have on the table and have had on the table, or maybe some left turn lanes as the city has. Dr. Medlin, the mayor, the Willard Fire District, they're very much for the 160 expansion. I think it's fantastic, but who's going to pay for it? How are we going to pay for it? The 1 cent sales tax that is in the house right now, they can't even get it through the state house at 1 cent. So I don't know. But it may be Medlin with his $34 million sitting there in trust fund, maybe he will pay for it because he says that the biggest thing is safety for the children. I don't have an answer. Since all the children are coming into Willard, maybe that needs to be addressed. As an alderman, I would not vote just because of an issue that I felt. I want to go to the citizens and find out what they feel. I think we have to address the citizens as what's going to happen in the future. If I look at my grandkids and look at the debt and the debt service that the United States has, I'm putting that debt on their back. I think we need to try to solve that debt and make it for the future. Willard is my home. It's our tax dollars. It's our streets, our water and sewer, our parks department. It is our schools. The Parks Department is one of the best in the area with activities and all. Let's build on that. We need to support the local businesses, and we support the local businesses, and then we will get some more in here to grow. Let's rise up together, as Linda said, and grow and prosper in Willard. I do need your vote. There's no doubt about it. I'm running against an incumbent who has been in twice, voted out once, and reappointed. So, but I do look at Willard as my home for the future. I'm retired. I do work part-time, but as an alderman, I want to work diligently for the city of Willard. Thank you.
In regard to the question you asked, Brian, about what business I'd like to see out here, I thought probably the best idea that I've heard was what Mr. Mitchell had said at the mayor's breakfast, which was how it seems that growth in Willard is very lopsided. It's very lopsided toward the residential. We don't have anything in the way of industry out here. And I know that he and Randy had actually approached somebody down in Texas about that. That's something I'd like to see come out here. But one of the things that I've heard from people, one of the things that they're concerned about is just that they want Willard to, or a lot of people want Willard to maintain that small town feel. And you're kind of walking a fine line with trying to figure out ways to conceal big buildings that would bring in industry and try to keep those people happy at the same time. But I think personally that that's what we need more than anything to build a tax base. As far as why I'm running and why anybody in the right mind would vote for me, I have no idea. But, I rode, when I was a kid, I rode my bike all over this area. And somebody else took care of the streets. Somebody else took care of the water. All I was a kid cresting a hill and looking at what was on the other side. And I didn't have to worry about any of that. And that's where my kids are now. And they deserve to have that same feeling of freedom that I had back at that time. And in order for that to continue to happen, somebody has to pay attention to what's going on. And I like pretty much everything everybody up here has said. And whether or not I would be good at that, I don't know. All I know is that I do like to listen to people and their concerns, and I like to try to focus on a problem and solve it, but not in a way to where I feel like, people are at each other's throats. I just like to try to keep everybody happy and try to make things the best that they can be.
To the first part of that question, yeah, I agree with Bradley. I think that ultimately we have to have some sort of industry that allows people to work locally. Ultimately, that will build community all around that, the small businesses, the restaurants, the gas stations, the shopping centers that grow in result of those industries being present. We are fairly lopsided in that respect, so I just want to see a business, any industry that would allow local citizens to have adequate incomes, and that they could turn around and spend that money back here in our community. As far as me personally, ultimately to the respect of the other Ward 3 aldermen, they've got more life experience than I do. They have lots of things going for them, and so if any one of us gets it, I am more than happy to share information with them, and I believe that all three of us would serve the Ward 3 well. For me personally, like I've mentioned, in my life I've spent a lot of time serving other people, and in that process there's a lot of listening involved. There's been a lot of critical thinking skills that I've developed as an RN. I've spent a lot of years in management, but ultimately, again, I come from a family of service, whether it's been in the school board level, local community involvement, government involvement, church involvement. I think that as productive citizens, our job is to be involved with our community. And ultimately, I pledge to serve this community. I pledge to make decisions based on the input of the citizens in my ward and to vote down any bill or information that's before me that I don't feel best serves this community.
Okay, well, again, I thank everyone for being here, and thank you moderators. You guys did great. I appreciate you. Basically, I'm not going to go over everything again. You guys know kind of where I stand on everything, and I just hope that you really know how strong I feel about making sure I stand up for you in the community and doing things for you. That's what I'm here for. When I came this evening, I wanted to let voters know my views on different areas of concern. I focused on sharing what I want and what is best for the residents here in Willard. Everyone may have opinions on how they feel, the way they think things should be. We all have that right because that's what our government is founded on. However, my place as alderman would not be just about what my opinion is. My place is what the opinion of the residents of Willard is. I hope to build a relationship with the residents in our area and learn about their concerns so that when I speak, it is not in a single voice, it's in a unity of several. I have never been in this position of this level before, so I'm going to make mistakes. And I hope to learn from them. And I will not say yes on everything that's passed by me. I will learn and hope to make the right decisions. I will make and have to make some hard choices. I know it will not be easy, and these type of jobs never are. However, I want and I hope that you will take time on April 8th to come by and vote for us, and I hope your vote is for me. Thank you so much for tonight.
Well, again, I will echo everyone's thoughts. Thank you very much for coming out this evening and allowing us to share our thoughts with you. To be quite honest, I really had never been very involved with the local issues until I started looking into things and decided that this might be some place where I could be of service and could help the community. It's obvious that we do have a lot of pretty pressing issues in front of us. But that being said, there's not anything that's insurmountable. And, you know, I would like to do what I can to help over the next 2 years toward resolving some of those and keeping Willard on a path of growth and sustaining the quality of life that we do have in this community. Again, thanks for everyone, and I would appreciate your vote next week also.
Cindy came up with just a couple of quick things about having a strong conviction of family values and the confidence of residents to represent them. That is an improvement statement. Please vote on no adequately. And do you have some questions? I know that we're done now. Please address the board. I love that.
Little makes sense. I really didn't know, I was on the park board for a short time, and until I was on there, I really didn't know anything about Alderman at all. And until the last year, I didn't ever come out and vote for Alderman because I didn't even know what happened or what they were or anything. And I've got, my husband and I have 4 kids, oldest 16, youngest almost 5. So we're going to be hopefully in the Willard system for a while. So my question, I guess, is to the alderman, is how, you know, sitting here, I heard everybody talk about they're here for their community, their ward and stuff like that. So my question is, like, how are you guys going to be there? How are you going to make yourself known to your ward besides us just seeing the signs that are out there? You know, after you're voted in or not, whatever, what is going to be your way of getting to know what the issues are that you have, the residents have in your ward? You know, besides going to meetings, you know, a lot of people can't go to the meetings. So how are you going to make those, you know, saying, I'm here for you, I guess is my question. How are you going to make yourself known to your ward that I'm here for you? What are your concerns? Because obviously, I mean, there's a good crowd here tonight, but there's a lot of other people out there that obviously from last year, a lot of people didn't come out and vote. And so, you know, how are you going to make yourself known that you're there for them?
Who wants to go first?
Actually, if you notice on the table in the back, on my little handouts, I've been going to houses and handing them out to them. I actually have my email address on there. And I put on there, please email me your concerns. And I mean, I'm not even elected yet. And I'm trying to get homeowners to send me their concerns. So I will be available by email, and hopefully, I don't know how the city government has it, but I'm sure that they have we have the email addresses on there so that they can contact us through that. I'm sure do have phone numbers and stuff that's available as well. There's ways to do it that way. We'll probably have Facebook and things like that that's available on there. Is it just email? That's something that should be, you should have a Facebook is a great tool, something the city should consider, yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of different tools that can be used for community to be able to get a hold of us. And that's something that I'm very flexible on. I have to be on our board, homeowners board, we have to be available too. So I have the email address and everything. So there's different ways that you can try to get a hold of people to be able to get to us. I'm already trying to do it to reach out, because like I said, Ward 3, we had a really low turnout, so we're trying to get what we can to get people out there to reach out to us. And I'm not afraid to go to people. If I see them out in the yard, I'm gonna go say hi to them. I might freak them out a little bit, but I'm gonna do it as best as I can, so, but that's how we're trying to do it.
I agree with her that we ultimately have to provide some means for the citizens to have that information readily accessible. I guess if elected, one of the things I would like to see the city work on, and Bradley kind of mentioned earlier, but some way of distributing information. And I think that Facebook is a great tool and resource, and email is a great tool and resource. We have a lot of citizens who don't use that resource. I would like to see the city make some effort to put out a newsletter, whether we use volunteers to distribute that door to door, or we incur some cost in mailing that, but I think ultimately it's that responsibility of city government to have that information readily available. I think right now, currently the newspaper publishes the emails of all the aldermen, but again, not everybody takes the local newspaper. So I think if we could do a door-to-door push or a mailing to the citizens, I do think it's ultimately important for citizens to know. I think it's a great point. As my family members have asked me what I'm doing, and I say I'm running for alderman, they say, "You're running for a what?" So it is misunderstood and not understood, and if people don't understand, if they don't feel like their vote has value, they're not going to cast it. So I think as an alderman, that would be one of my pushes, is to provide information to the citizens to have readily available access to both the city information and to the elected representatives.
I would have to, again, echo the thoughts. The power of social media is tremendous, particularly with, the younger crowd, the folks that this is really going to affect as we move forward. They're the next younger generations, Michael's and on down. Thanks for that. I appreciate that. That's the nicest way that anyone's told me I was old in quite a while. What you said there earlier. Those folks are the one. Obviously we're all faced with the task of paying for these things now, but our kids, our grandkids are going to have a lot longer to be paying for it, and I think that would be an ideal way to get started, getting input from the citizens, Facebook, Twitter, any of those types of forms of communication.
I totally agree that the alderman must be very straightforward with the citizens. I have a website for Willard, and I have gotten some very good emails from it. I have email accounts just for the city of Willard, and it's amazing the number of people that have emailed me. So I'm going to be available that way on Twitter and Facebook. But we have one thing that we all have to remember, and the citizens may not understand this. This is the Bible for the alderman. It is the state guidelines on what can be done and said. There is the sunshine law that an alderman cannot, or at a breakfast, a lunch, whatever, cannot say certain things. So we have to be very concerned about what, as an alderman, we do. But I want to listen to your voice. I may not be able to answer your question or tell you what's been discussed or how it's being discussed, but I think we can offer you a venue of which you can voice back to us, and then if it is not against the state law or the city ordinances or the sunshine law, then we can give you better answers. If there are 3 aldermen together at one lunch, it's a quorum, we're against sunshine laws. If those things are reached, then we have some issues. Or if we are at a breakfast and we're discussing city business, that is the breach of state law. So we've got to have some venue, a Facebook, Twitter, and email to be able to hear what your concerns are, and then we talk back to you and allow us to tell you what we're working on and see if you like that idea.
Based on what everybody else already said, social media is a good way to try to talk to people. However, for walking around in the wards, a lot of people who actually care that are older, they don't use that. A lot of them have lived their entire lives, and they get out and vote every single election. They don't have access to Facebook. They don't have access to email, but they'd like to know what's going on. And in order to try to address that, one lady I talked to, we had talked about the possibility of maybe once a month getting a couple of volunteers and walking around with white paper, just explaining things that are going on with the city. And, there is the possibility of sending out a newsletter too, but generally what happens with governments of any kind is that usually the only thing that ends up being discussed in the communications that the actual government puts out are all the positive things. The negative things generally aren't addressed. And within the parameters that David was discussing just a moment ago about the Sunshine Law, I as an alderman would want to try to do my best to keep up residents in my ward, keep them up to date with all of the controversial things that are going on, and not just all the positive spin. Because if we're not addressing what's controversial, things are not going to improve. And that's not just locally, but at the state level and at the federal level as well. That's just kind of where I stand on that.